be seated. Honourable members, I'm sorry. Announcement. Honourable members, I have an announcement this morning. At the sitting of Tuesday last, I informed the House that I was awaiting a correspondence from Honourable Paul Béranger, Honourable Chetan Babulal and Honourable Joanna Béranger prior to effecting any changes in their seating arrangements within the Chamber. I am now in presence of a letter dated 13th April from these honourable members informing me of their resignation from the MMM and of their wish to sit as an opposition group in the National Assembly. In the exercise of the powers vested in me under Standing Order 6 of the Standing Orders and Rules of the National Assembly, I have accordingly allocated seats to these members to sit on my left, on the second rank behind the Leader of the Opposition and the Opposition Whip, as you can see. At the same time, honourable members, I've taken the opportunity to make some adjustments to the seating arrangements on the government side to ensure that no seat remains unoccupied except for that reserved for the Deputy Prime Minister. Honourable Jaman has been reassigned to the seat formerly occupied by Honourable Babulal, as I cannot see him when the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is on his feet. And I'm glad that he's smiling. I have also made certain adjustments to the seating of Honourable Junior Ministers by moving them further right, including Honourable Damri, who doesn't seem to be here right now, but we will have, after Madame Foukoun Bacha, we will have Honourable David, and then we will have Honourable Damri next to the Minister. I don't see why we should separate you. Seats have been temporarily allocated to Honourable Lakiram and Honourable Ramdas, alongside Honourable Junior Minister Le Govin, having regard to concerns that they have raised several times in relation to the air conditioning system. I thank you for your attention, and for those who are listening to me, maybe in the House or outside, happy Varusha Pirapu. Thank you.
Papers have been laid. Questions?
Yes, Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've given notice of the following private notice question addressed to the Honourable Minister of Gender, Equality and Family Welfare. Whether, in regard to the protection of women, she will state A, the number of women killed and assaulted, respectively, in circumstances linked to domestic or intimate partner violence since January 2025 to date, indicating the number thereof, if any, having previously reported case of threats, harassment or violence to the authorities, which are still under investigation, and B, where matters stand regarding the implementation of the measures government committed itself to take to reconstruct the family strength and create happy, supportive families as the foundations of a healthy, stable and sustainable society in line with paragraph 47 of the government program 2025-2029. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I thank the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for his question and for raising an issue of such critical national importance. At the outset, I wish to underline that the protection of women against all forms of violence, including domestic and intimate partner violence, remains high on the agenda of this government. This is a matter which not only concerns public safety, but also the dignity, rights, and well-being of our citizens, as well as the stability of our families and society. With regard to part A of the question, I am informed that for the period January 2025 to date, 10 cases of women killed and 6,478 cases of assault in circumstances linked to domestic or intimate partner violence have been recorded. Out of the 10 cases of women killed, 7 victims had previously reported incidents of threats, harassment, or violence to the authorities, which are still under investigation. Madam Speaker, government has agreed to repeal the existing Protection from Domestic Violence Act and introduce a new domestic abuse bill, which would A, broaden definitions to include other relationships, such as intimate partners not living under the same roof. B, introduce a mandatory reporting clause whereby professionals suspecting acts of domestic abuse would have the mandatory obligation to report the matter. C, define the different forms of abuse, including physical, financial, sexual, and psychological abuse. D, introduce a protection notice to be issued by the police for cases reported during the night or weekend to protect the victim from further acts of domestic violence pending the issue of a protection order. E, empower enforcement officers to make application for orders on behalf of victims who are unable to do so. F, facilitate access to police officers into the place of residence and accompany the victim inside to take his or her belongings. G, make a statement on the case in any police station, irrespective of where the incident of violence occurred. And H, provide for mandatory counseling and rehabilitation program for perpetrators. Madam Speaker, this legislation introduces 4 major innovations. First, an expanded and modernized definition of domestic violence. We now recognize all forms of intimate relationships, including non-cohabiting partners and modern family configurations, such as step-parents. We precisely define the 4 forms of violence: physical, sexual, psychological, and financial. Consequently, a woman whose spouse controls all her income is a victim in exactly the same way as a woman who is physically assaulted. Second, mandatory reporting for any professional who suspects acts of violence. This measure aims to break the silence surrounding abuse and to swiftly direct victims towards protection. Doctors, teachers, and social workers will now have a legal obligation to report, thus creating a chain of vigilance around victims. Third, streamlined access to justice through accelerated procedures and emergency protective measures. A victim in danger should not have to wait weeks to obtain a protection order. Fourth, mandatory rehabilitation programs for perpetrators of violence focused on preventing reoffending. We are not naive. The safety of victims remains our absolute priority. But we know that rehabilitation work can prevent violence from recurring. This reform, Madam Speaker, marks a paradigm shift. We are moving from a purely punitive approach to a comprehensive strategy that protects, prevents, and holds people accountable. The message is clear, Madam Speaker. Domestic violence is not a private matter. It is a crime. It will no longer be tolerated. It will no longer be minimized. It will no longer be ignored. With a domestic abuse bill, we are finally giving ourselves the legal tools equal to this ambition. Consequential amendments will be brought to the criminal code regarding cases of femicides. Madam Speaker, the National Human Rights Commission Annual Report 2025, Femicide, presents femicides as a human rights crisis in Mauritius, not as isolated murders. It is described as the fatal endpoint of escalating gender-based violence, usually preceded by coercive control, psychological abuse, threats, isolation, and repeated violence. Madam Speaker, in regard to Part B, in view of promoting family well-being and addressing gender-based violence, GBV, my ministry is implementing a series of awareness campaigns through social welfare centers and community centers. In 2025, last year, 119 campaigns were conducted, whereby 4,450 people were reached, out of which 3,309 were women and 1,141 were men. My ministry, in collaboration with the United Nations Population Fund, conducted a 5-day multi-sectoral training of trainers and coordination on the survivor-centered GBV response was organized with the participation of representatives from various sectors. The training was facilitated by 2 trainers from UNFPA and UNODC, respectively. The aim of this training was to deepen participants' understanding of legal, psychosocial, and health implications of GBV, while also mastering sector-specific standard operating procedures. 50 representatives from different organizations participated in the training program. 35 police officers and 20 senior officers were trained. The purpose of the training was to enhance their response to domestic violence, empower the officers to better conduct risk assessment associated with domestic violence, enhance victim support, and guide officers regarding training to be conducted in police training school. In the face of rising reports, our action is built around several priority areas. The first is the strengthening of prevention through more targeted and intensified awareness campaigns in schools, communities, and the media. The second is early detection. Our frontline workers have been trained to recognize the early warning signs of abuse. Teachers, social workers, police officers are all on the front line, ready to raise the alarm as soon as a suspicious situation is identified. We are also intensifying our interinstitutional coordination between the Family Support Services, the FSS, the Brigade for the Protection of the Family, social services, and NGOs to ensure faster and more effective support for victims. Over the past year, the Family Department of my ministry has also put in place a family support program, the Parental Strength Circle project, which is working very well, Madam Speaker. It consists of parenting sessions aimed at preventing at-risk situations before they escalate. Finally, we are counting on greater community involvement, particularly through community child watch structures to facilitate reporting and strengthen vigilance at the local level. I thank you.
Thank you. Yes, your first supplementary. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The situation is very critical, Madam Speaker. Let me come to the first supplementary question. The Honourable Minister replied extensively on the domestic abuse bill. May I remind the Honourable Minister, when she intervened during
No,
budget
question.
time... Yeah, I'll come to the
Question.
question.
No, no,
This is
no.
what she said.
No,
Un projet
question.
de loi dans ce sens est en préparation afin de renforcer les protections juridiques à Maurice en élargissant les définitions de l'abus et des relations et en renforçant les mesures de protection en outre. It's almost a year ago, Madam
Please
Speaker.
ask a question.
Yeah, what we want to know today, Madam Speaker, when will this bill be introduced in this
a
House?
question. That's a good question. Minister.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Effectivement, il y a le Domestic Abuse Bill qui est en préparation. Nous avons déjà un draft bill sur ce projet de loi, bien sûr. Nous sommes en train de valider le projet de loi. Nous avons organisé un workshop qui a regroupé plusieurs ONG et les membres du State Law Office, le personnel du State Law Office. Mes officiers ont également eu un atelier de travail, justement, oui, avec le Parliamentary Gender Caucus que vous présidez vous-même. Nous allons, troisièmement, organiser un workshop destiné à la Law Society et le Bar Council et les survivantes. Je suis confiante, moi, que ce projet de loi va venir très très vite devant cette Chambre.
Donnez-nous une indication. Donnez-nous une indication, Madame la Ministre.
Alors, selon mes informations, ce sera dans un mois.
Très bien. Next question. Don't make a statement. Question.
Yes. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Minister made reference to victims of domestic abuse, referring to cases where women lost their lives. Can the Honourable Minister inform if risk assessments were conducted in each case, and if not, why not?
Yes, Minister.
Madame la Présidente, nous avons, à travers l'île Maurice, 12 Family Support Officers, services, et ces FSS offrent toute une panoplie de services aux victimes de violences domestiques, à savoir counseling, mediation, legal service et support psychologique. Si c'est nécessaire, de temps en temps, on fait des risk assessments, dépendant de la disponibilité des officiers et dépendant également de la demande de la victime.
Next question.
Vous êtes en train de noyer le poisson, Madame la Présidente.
Non, non, ça c'est vous qui le dites. Allez,
Yeah,
question.
but my question was specific. Now, with regard to women who lost their lives, can the Honourable Minister inform the House how many were under protection orders?
Donc, sept personnes ont eu recours au protection order. Madame la Présidente, je dois vous dire une chose. Il y a des victimes qui ont recours à nos services. Donc, nous les conseillons, nous leur offrons les services disponibles, nous leur expliquons quels sont les services qui sont proposés par le ministère. Certains viennent de l'avant pour faire une application de protection order. Et ils ont leur protection order, les victimes ont leur protection order, mais malheureusement, très souvent, they withdraw their protection order, and we cannot do anything for them. This is sad, but it is like that. We cannot force anyone to keep his protection order. Ça, c'est un drame, Madame la Présidente. Nous, les officiers, nous encourageons les victimes à venir de l'avant pour faire une application pour le protection order, mais malheureusement, très souvent, dans plusieurs cas, les protection orders sont withdrawn by the victims.
Next question.
Yes, let me come to a specific case, Madam Speaker, and I want a straight reply. With regard to late Mrs. YB, who lost her life, can the Honourable Minister inform the House, first, whether she had a protection order, whether she spent 24 days in a shelter as a temporary measure, and will the Honourable Minister agree that in that case, her ministry failed to follow up closely?
La victime YB, vous voulez dire celle dont on n'a pas retrouvé, la personne qu'on n'a pas retrouvée? Parce que vous me donnez des initiales, je ne pourrais pas savoir.
Donnez une indication. Donnez une indication.
But as a minister, she must know, Madam Speaker.
Mais vous-même, vous savez. Vous-même, vous avez dit.
It's Mrs. Yogeshwari Bhajan, 37 years old.
Yeah.
Yes, Minister.
Oui, ce cas a été rapporté au ministère, effectivement. Alors, the case of Mrs. YB of Fond-du-Sac is known to our services. She first came to our services in June 2025. She was, during the visit, she reported verbal, emotional, and physical abuse by her partner, Mr. PR. She also informed that they have been cohabiting together since past 10 years and have 2 children. She had applied for a protection order on 21st August 2025, and however, on 25th September 2025, she decided to withdraw the case as she was then residing at the residence of her father.
Your next question. I have 2 supplementary waiting. I'm just informing you.
Okay, thank you. With regard to pending cases of assaults, Madam Speaker, may we know from the Honourable Minister if all of his victims currently benefit from a protection order?
You mean the 4,000? The 7?
Cases of assault that you mentioned.
Yes, I don't have this information. Yeah. Give me quelques secondes. May I table? Can you repeat the question, Mr. Honourable Leader of the Opposition?
Yes, of course, Honourable Speaker. With regard to pending cases of assault, may we know from you if all of these victims currently benefit from a protection order?
Which pending cases? The ones that she mentioned, okay? Because there are many, probably. Yes.
Madam Speaker, I have before me reported cases of domestic violence by type. Type of violence, emotional violence, physical violence, psychological violence, economic violence, sexual violence, verbal abuse. And this is a...
The question, Minister,
Yes.
may I help you?
Yeah.
The question was about the cases of assault, which you apparently, I can't remember, mentioned. You mentioned cases of assault.
No. According to information, not all cases of assaults have a protection order.
Yes, it depends if they ask.
Let me come to the government programme.
Yes.
And let me refer to paragraph 47. This was a pledge government made. Government will encourage family interactions, mutual support, while offering more job opportunities, namely through free internet to bridge the digital divide and fostering the development of every family member. May we know from the Honourable Minister why up to now, Madam Speaker, this measure has not been implemented?
Madam Speaker, there is already free internet for people who are on the social register.
Then why did you mention it in your government?
Don't speak from a sitting position.
So people have to come forward to benefit from this facility, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam
Of
Speaker.
course. Tout le monde sait ça. Il faut demander. I don't want to say.
About the bush
I don't want to say
in a
what.
reply, Madam Speaker. Everybody knows that. Madam Speaker, you will agree that the situation is alarming. Therefore, can the Honourable Minister inform the House what strategies are being worked out at the level of her ministry to end femicide in Mauritius? And will the Honourable Minister on this case commit to a timeline?
Madam Speaker, I've already answered to that question. I've already answered that we have a bill which is in preparation, and we have also awareness campaigns going through community centers and other community-based organizations.
Okay. Yes. Then there's your friend, and then there's the Chief Whip.
The Honourable Minister, with regard to family support service officers, replied lengthily. Can the Honourable Minister confirm to the House whether those officers are adequately equipped?
Madame la Présidente, people are never very well equipped. There is always room for improvement. They are making their best to help whatever victim come along to the office. So they have been trained, they have equipment, but nothing is sufficient. There is always room for improvement.
Yes, next question. Your last question, and
Let me
then...
put a question where there is a lot of room for improvement, Madam Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Minister whether she is aware that certain family support service officers, comprising of some 10 officers, have only one telephone, one printer, and no air conditioner units, and very often, what I understand, affidavit 4 protection orders have to be printed in the court office because they do not have those facilities, Mr. Speaker.
Madam Speaker, this is what has been left to us from the previous government, over and above this equipment, which the Honourable Leader of Opposition is referred to. We have also...
Honourable Mohammed, let me listen to the Minister.
The Ministry has also a hotline which is operational 24/7, the 113. Any victim who has, any person who is a victim of domestic violence, 113 is for children, 139 for domestic violence, 139 and 119. Anyone who feels she or he is a victim of domestic violence can call these hotlines.
Yes. Honourable Duval.
Thank you. Can I ask the Honourable Minister, is the Minister aware that internationally, according to the United Nations, 25% of cases of feminicide reveals that there have been prior reports to the police? That is the international average. In Mauritius, 70% had protection orders in place. Not talking of prior reports, protection orders, and yet they have been killed. These figures are getting worse and worse.
Question.
Does the Minister not agree that it shows a systemic failure by the police and her ministry in protecting persons from feminicide? Figures are 3 times what they should be internationally.
Madam Speaker, I agree that one case of femicide is too many. But we have the resources, we have the commitment to tackle the problem, and that is what the government is doing.
Chief Whip.
Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
J'écoute la Chief Whip, s'il vous plaît.
Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente. In view of the importance of a bill, which requires wide consultation, wide, W-I-D-E, wide consultation, not wide, is the Minister envisaging circulating a draft thereof in the media so as to obtain maximum recommendations? Thank you.
Very clear question, Minister.
Yes, thank you, Madam Whip. We need to have cabinet approval before circulating the bill.
No. You said you had one more? Yes. I have to come back. He has one more.
Madam Speaker,
Il me reste quelques minutes.
under the previous government, the Honorable Prime Minister used to chair a high-level committee on elimination of gender-based violence. Can the Honorable Minister confirm if this is still on the agenda of the present government? To show the level of importance of that.
It was chaired by the previous Prime Minister. You're talking of the...
You have the answer. It has been chaired previously.
Okay, 1-1, and then we finish. 1-1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, may I ask the Honourable Minister, with regards to protection orders, the 2024 figures, according to Statistics Mauritius, show that out of 398 protection orders, only one case was given an occupancy order, occupation order. Therefore, does the Minister find it normal that the ratio of protection order to occupancy order granted is so drastically low?
1 moment, Minister.
And, yes?
This doesn't concern the ministry.
And
It gives the...
it doesn't matter, it is under her watch. And what does she propose to do urgently to ensure that the 398 cases does not translate in only one occupancy order?
Madam Speaker,
I can't hear.
Madam Speaker, the honourable member knows quite well that this concerns the court, the magistrates, the judiciary. But we are proposing improvements to the law, and we are coming very soon to that.
Okay. No, I had one more here. And then I...
Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente. La ministre peut-elle indiquer à la Chambre si les psychologues et les officiers de son ministère sont réellement formés et spécialisés dans la prise en charge thérapeutique des agresseurs? Merci.
D'après leur qualification, oui.
Ouais, bon. Mr. Bichu, yes, and then you. Last 2 questions.
Madam Speaker, I would like to ask the Honourable Minister what will be done to safeguard, to ensure the security of those gender-based violent victims who withdraw their protection orders, and we see that despite that, they are still very vulnerable. Thank you.
Yes.
Madame la Présidente, le projet de loi qui va venir va, dans le prochain projet de loi, ça va être moins difficile to withdraw protection order. Ce sera moins
Facile.
plus difficile. Ce sera plus difficile de withdraw protection order.
Bon, allez, je ne fais pas de commentaire.
Merci, Madame la
Je brûle,
Présidente.
mais je ne fais pas.
Can the Honourable Minister inform if situation to welcome and support victims at the level of police station have improved? Thank you.
Madame la Présidente, je peux vous assurer que le Premier ministre, le Prime Minister's Office, a déjà donné des directives au commissaire de police pour que le staff au niveau des postes de la police, de police, soit renforcé pour mieux protéger les victimes.
Merci, time is up. Thank you, everybody. Now, questions. Honourable Prime Minister. Yes, my dear Mr. German.
Thank you, Madam. Question B, 318, please.
Madam Speaker, immediately upon receipt of the Director of Audit report for the financial year 2024-2025, the Minister of Finance has carried out a comprehensive review of the issues raised in the report. With regard to Part A of the question, the Minister of Finance has, on the 20th of March 2026, issued a circular to supervising officers and accounting officers urging them to take appropriate measures to effectively address the issues raised and implement the recommendations set out in the report and which are justified. More specifically, ministries and departments will have to take immediate and appropriate actions to determine the root causes of these issues, examine why they were not adequately addressed and the recommendations were not implemented, implement corrective measures without delay, and designate a responsible officer to oversee and monitor the implementation of these measures. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Finance has issued another circular on the 27th of March 2026 to call upon supervising officers and accounting officers to exercise greater oversight over the statutory bodies under their responsibility, with a view to addressing again the issues raised in the Director of Audit's report. Supervising officers should ensure that these statutory bodies operate in accordance with national policies, comply with applicable regulatory and financial requirements, and deliver public services efficiently and effectively. Madam Speaker, allow me to cite one example from the 24-25 report of the Director of Audit with regard to the Mauritius Prison Service. A contract for the installation of CCTV cameras at Beaubassin Prison was awarded for an amount of 13.3 million rupees. This contract was awarded to Contrat Plus Limited, whose CEO is one Mr. Ashley Itu, former MSM Member of Parliament. This contractor stopped responding to any request from the Mauritius Prison Service. As per the audit report, no legal advice has been sought regarding this non-compliance. This is a clear case of negligence by design, and this matter will be dealt with shortly. Government will not allow such situations to persist. This government intends to take decisive and forward-looking measures to address the shortcomings highlighted in the audit report in a durable and meaningful manner, and ensuring lasting impact of tangible improvements. Madam Speaker, we have seen over the years the same thing keeps happening. It cannot be business as usual. Government has decided to set up a National Accountability Enforcement Authority. This institution will examine findings and recommendations arising from the reports of the entities, including Public Account Committee, the National Audit Office, the Director of Audit Committee, the Internal Audit, and Office of Public Sector Governance. Our aim is to put in place a powerful system to reduce unjustified and irresponsible behavior as well as waste of resources in the public sector. It will also investigate departures from legislations, regulations, procedures, and best practices by institutions and public service of public officers referred by the Prime Minister's office. Following the tampering of the figures in the budget by the previous government, government has requested for technical assistance from the IMF for preparing and implementing the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The National Accountability Enforcement Authority will be given the mandate to ensure compliance with the forthcoming Fiscal Responsibility Act, including an assessment of the macroeconomic assumptions. Relevant legislations will therefore be amended so that following the submission of the report of the National Audit Service, the Director of Audit submits an additional report focusing on the most important findings and recommendations. This will make it easier to impose sanctions where necessary. Abusive practices and waste of public resources should not become recurrent and chronic. In addition, copies of all qualified audit reports of government-owned companies and statutory bodies will be submitted to the National Accountability Enforcement Authority for investigation and remedial actions. The National Accountability Enforcement Authority will be headed by a Director General and will be conferred sufficient powers to convene heads of public institutions, obtain relevant information in view of investigation and application of administrative sanctions. Furthermore, as announced in the Government Programme 2025-2029, to foster greater transparency and accountability, the mandate of the Public Accounts Committee will be broadened. I will come up with the proposals for consideration by the House. With regard to Part B of the question, the introduction of performance-based budgeting has provided government with a powerful tool to improve efficiency and effectiveness in the use of public funds. The PBB sets out key performance indicators which ministries and departments have to achieve. This is compelling ministries and departments to review their processes, eliminate wasteful and suboptimal practices, and improve service delivery.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, Mr. Duval.
I ask the Honourable Prime Minister with regards to the Public Accounts Committee, which he referred to. May I know when does government envisage to amend the standing orders to allow the report of the Public Accounts Committee to be scrutinized by the House in debate, as was promised?
This should have been done even before. I don't know why it wasn't done. We are proposing, that I mentioned that in my answer, that we are doing an enforcement. I think we call it the National Accountability Enforcement Authority, which will also link with the Public Account Committee.
Yes, all right, Mr. Roukni.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the Prime Minister please advise the House, how would change be brought about if the same senior public officials are maintained in office, or they are merely shifted in between ministries, whereby each one covers their friends? Thank you.
Well, unless you sack them, you can't do otherwise. They're here.
Yes?
Yes. Madam Speaker.
It must be related to the
yes,
question.
it's in fact, it's going back to the question I asked. My question was with regards to the amendment of standing orders to allow for the debate. He answered about something else. May I ask again?
No, we got the answer that it's coming.
No, he did not say that.
Okay, Prime Minister. Yeah, I heard. We will go through the Standing Orders Committee. Yes, Ms. Béranger.
B319.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the House is aware, Section 49 of the Constitution provides that the official language of the Assembly shall be in English, but any member may address the Chair in French. Standing Order 5 of the Standing Orders and Rules of the National Assembly provides that the proceedings and debates of the Assembly shall be in English, in the English language, but a member may also address the Assembly in French. Madam Speaker, the introduction of Kreol Morisien in the National Assembly has been the subject of several parliamentary questions in the past. Furthermore, in the context of the International Day of Mother Tongue, Madam Speaker, you yourself announced that you would hold consultative meetings with a view to looking into the practical hurdles that needed to be cleared before introducing the use of Kreol Morisien into the National Assembly. I wish to inform the House that following the consultative meetings, a document has been submitted to me on the 12th of March of 2026. The report proposes a roadmap, a structured roadmap. Now we'll have to proceed in the following manner. The report will have, first of all, to be submitted to Cabinet. It hasn't been submitted to Cabinet yet. I will then propose a motion in the National Assembly for the setting up of a select committee that would now be tasked to submit a report to the House within a period of 3 months, so that there is no loss of time. The practical hurdles you mentioned in the report of the steering committee, they concern legal procedures, procedural, technical and institutional conditions which are necessary before we introduce the Kreol Morisien Parliament. The terms of reference of the Select Committee would be guided by the key actions contained in the report submitted by you, Madam Speaker, on the proposed introduction of Kreol Morisien in the National Assembly. Consultations between the National Assembly and the Attorney General's Office for the drafting of the introduction in the National Assembly of a proposed amendment to Section 49 of the Constitution for the introduction of Kreol Morisien in the National Assembly, and also a motion requiring notice for the amendment of Standing Order 5 of the Standing Orders and Rules of the National Assembly, to be accompanied by a draft of the proposed amendment, shall then be referred to the Standing Orders Committee, which shall submit after deliberations a report thereon, which shall be debated following a motion moved accordingly, and if when approved, Standing Order 5 then shall stand amended. Pursuant to Standing Order 77, prescription by Madam Speaker of the interim rules of governing the use of Kreol Morisien in the National Assembly during the pilot phase will include the scope and limitations of the use of Kreol Morisien in the proceedings of the National Assembly and of committees, the rules on language decorum, and the use of the English language as the language for administrative, judicial, and constitutional purposes.
Thank you. Yes.
Merci. À la lumière de sa réponse, l'honorable Premier ministre peut-il nous dire si son gouvernement soutient toujours sur le principe l'utilisation de notre langue nationale comme langue d'expression parlementaire?
Oui, définitivement. This is one of the things that I must say, Madam Speaker, in all fairness, I wasn't too sure that that was a good idea at the beginning. But the late Dave Virasomi convinced me why it was necessary. I must say that in all fairness. So then we started, I spoke to Dr. Arnaud Carpouran, and then I launched his Kreol Morisien dictionary at, I think it was the University of Mauritius in September 2011. Then the Mauritius Institute of Education has a department now dedicated to pedagogy and curriculum of the Kreol Morisien. In 2011, the state of Mauritius recognized an orthography for Kreol Morisien, and 2012, it was introduced in primary schools as an optional subject. Later on, it became at the secondary level as well, and the first exam for Kreol Morisien has been set at the school level, school certificate level. And also the anthology for Kreol Morisien has been published in February 2020, just to show that we are determined that this should be the case. Now, this is why I put a limit of 3 months, so that we can get on with it.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Yes.
L'honorable Premier ministre peut-il déposer le rapport soumis par la Speaker sur la table de l'Assemblée?
No, I intend to, but first I will circulate it to Cabinet. I think for the moment just myself and the former Deputy Prime Minister has it. We'll have to circulate to others, and then we will submit it to the National Assembly.
Yes.
Okay, dans ce cas, l'honorable Premier ministre a mentionné certains hurdles, mais ça reste très général. Il a mentionné des legal procedures. Peut-il, dans ce cas, préciser spécifiquement quelles conditions doivent encore être réunies avant que la réforme puisse être amenée et que les amendements aux standing orders et à la Constitution puissent être présentés? Quels sont spécifiquement ces hurdles?
I don't think there are unsurmountable hurdles that will delay. That's why I put a time limit of 3 months. But in the report, Madam Speaker, you mentioned these practical hurdles, which you say concerns legal procedures, and then technical and institutional conditions which will be necessary. I don't think these are hurdles that are not going to take us time.
Yes.
Merci. On a eu le calendrier de 3 mois pour être présenté au Conseil des ministres, mais peut-on avoir...
Non.
Pour que le Select Committee présente son rapport au Conseil des ministres. Peut-on savoir, dans la réalité, concrètement, quand est-ce que les amendements pourront être présentés à l'Assemblée pour la réforme de la Constitution et des standing orders?
3 months will take us just after the budget. So after that, as soon as it's practicable, but there won't be no delay. That is why I put 3 months there. In your report, you suggested even up to 6 months, but I'll reduce it to 3 months, Madam Speaker.
Yes. I won't make any comments. All right, next question. Next question.
B320, merci.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that on the 5th of April 2026, at 22:15 hours, one Mr. J.L. of NHDC, Bon Espoir, phoned at the Piton police station requesting for police assistance. The two police officers immediately proceeded to the scene of the incident. Upon reaching there, they gathered preliminary information that one Mr. CV has been assaulted and the latter, who had been stabbed and bleeding profusely, had already been conveyed to SSRN Hospital by volunteers. The police officers then proceeded to SSRN Hospital to inquire about the victim and gathered further information thereof from Mr. VR. Later that night at Piton police station, the police recorded the declaration of Mr. VR to the effect that he has witnessed a case of assault by Mr. JAKB on Mr. CV at NSGC Bon Espoir Piton. On the same night, the police examined the spot of the incident to secure evidence and searched the weapon that was used to assault the victim. The police also initiated and maintained mobile patrol in the surrounding on the 5th and 6th of April 2026 to look out for the accused. On the 6th of April 2026, at 11:15 hours, the Piton police officers recorded the statement of the victim, Mr. CV, at SSRN Hospital and issued a PF-58. The victim stated again the same thing, that Mr. JAKB had assaulted him and stolen his money. On the 8th of April 2026, Mr. JAKB was arrested and his statement was recorded. He was provisionally charged for the offense of larceny with wounding before the Rivière-du-Rempart District Court. The court granted him bail after the latter furnishing a surety of 1,000 rupees and 1,150 rupees as cost and entering into recognitions of 10,000 rupees with a condition to report daily at the Piton police station between 6 in the morning to 18:00 hours. His next court appearance is scheduled for 24th of June 2026, and the police is still in the process of recording statements from other witnesses.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. You want a question? Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. Would the Honorable Prime Minister indicate whether in determining the conditions of the bail in this case, due consideration has been given to all relevant medical and evidential elements, including those arising from the victim's hospitalization, having regard to the seriousness of the case and positive or negative substance abuse test done on the victim during hospitalization?
Madam Speaker, this is the prerogative of the court. They decide on what conditions to put in all this.
Yes, you're right. Yes, Mr. Roger.
B321.
Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member is aware, and indeed the whole population, the previous government left us with a disastrous fiscal position. Public finances were in a mess, and they had left the country with a public debt of nearly 90% of GDP and a budget deficit of 9.3% of GDP. The economy had thus been irresponsibly managed over the past decade. Both the IMF and the World Bank had sounded the alarm on the imperative of reforming our pension system years back. In its report in 2015 entitled Pension Reforms in Mauritius, Fair and Fast, Balancing Social Protection and Fiscal Sustainability, the IMF stated that the reform of our pension system was now necessary and unavoidable. Moody's was on the verge of downgrading Mauritius to junk status. As Minister responsible for finance, I promptly took decisive measures in my very first budget to address and correct the situation. We are, Madam Speaker, among the very few countries in the world, if not probably the only one, where the eligibility age for the BRP, which I want to emphasize, is a non-contributory pension, is lower than the normal retirement age. I don't think in any other country this happens, it has been 65 years since 2018. Furthermore, the costs of the BRP had become increasingly unsustainable, the words that are used in the various reports. It had increased from 1.9% of GDP in 2010 to 7.8% of GDP in 2024-2025. Similarly, the percentage of BRP expenditure in government recurrent expenditure increased from 9.6% in 2010 to to 14.2% in 2015-16, and further to 24.5% in 2024-2025. These figures clearly illustrate the growing fiscal pressure on public finances. Without reforms, expenditure on the BOP would have been unsustainable. The situation is such that without reform, we risk a future where there will be no pension for any person who is retiring, neither today or tomorrow. In addition, this significantly constrains our fiscal space, thereby limiting our ability to allocate adequate resources in health, education, and housing, which are vital for our long-term social and economic development. Government therefore took a decisive action to address the issue in order to ensure a strong and reliable pension system for generations to come. Madam Speaker, if no action would have been taken by this government, it would have been impossible to sustain our welfare state, as the cost of BOP would have reached 100 billion rupees in 2035. The actual figure for BOP was 55.3 billion for financial year 2024-2025. That is, if you look at it, more than the budget for health, which is 17.2 billion, more than the budget for education, which is 19.4 billion, more than the budget for housing, which is 2.2 billion, and also for the police services, which are 12.6 million. I think these figures speak for themselves. Accordingly, we have decided to gradually increase the eligibility rate age for BOP from 60 to 65. I want to point out that it is a gradual increase. And those who have turned 60 before the budget, they're still getting the pension at the age of 60. That is over a period. We're starting this gradual process from 1st of September 2025. I wish to remind the House that with a view to avoiding sudden hardship for our elderly who are impacted by the reform and protecting the vulnerable groups, including low-income earners, government set up 2 interministerial committees to look into the matter. In the interest of time and expediency, the committee was subsequently merged. The committee had studied and assessed the impact of the pension reform with a view to come up with various options and possibilities to support those affected by the reform, particularly the poor and the vulnerable groups. On this basis, 2 main measures were proposed by the committee. The first measure was the implementation of an income support through the MRA to all those who are no longer eligible for BOP, provided that for a single individual, his or her monthly income does not exceed 10,000 rupees, and for a couple, it does not exceed 20,000 rupees. This support aims at covering a range of beneficiaries, including housewives, retirees, employees, and self-employed persons who rely mainly on the BOP instead of focusing only on persons in sectors with difficult conditions. We looked at that, but we decided to do it that way. The monthly income support was set on 10,000 rupees in September of 2025. It has now been increased to 10,370 rupees in January 2026. That is, full compensation was given to the loss in purchasing power due to inflation. The second measure provides for the beneficiaries of basic invalidity pension, the basic widow's pension, and the invalidity allowance who turn 60 years of age to continue to receive the respective pensions until they qualify for the BOP. Madam Speaker, as the House is aware, government has also set up a commission of experts on pension reform in September of last year. They were to look at the pension system globally and make recommendations to reform the 3 pillars of our pension system, including the pillar 1, that is the basic retirement pension. As regard to the next budget, the Honourable Member will understand I cannot reveal the policy measures now, but I will be announcing them in the budget.
Thank you. Yes, one question.
Je vous remercie. Je ne demandais pas les policy measures qui seront prises dans le prochain budget. Ma question concernait précisément si une étude de l'impact socio-économique de la réforme a été faite avant le budget qui arrive.
I can't say it was a thorough study because there was a question of time, but we're still going on doing this to check what in fact will be the impact.
Okay. Deuxième.
Checking this impact? The committee?
This is done by the Ministry of Finance and also in conjunction with the Social Security Ministry.
Okay. Next question, Dr. Omia.
B322, please.
Madam Speaker, with regard to Part A of the question, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that from the 1st of January 2023 to the 10th of April 2026, 108 drug seizures were carried out at the seaport and 151 at the airport. 3 police officers posted at the airport were arrested in connection with the drug cases. These police officers are currently in detention and have been interdicted pursuant to Regulation 28 of the Discipline Forces Service Commission regulations. In regard to Part B of the question, prior to posting of police officers at strategic entry points, a thorough screening and due diligence exercise is carried out on the officers. After the posting of the police officers, their conduct is constantly monitored by the officer in charge to ascertain that they maintain the professional standards required in the exercise of their duties at all times. Rotation of police officers is carried out on a need basis to preserve the integrity of the different departments. Training is also dispensed to the police officers on matters pertaining to discipline and integrity.
Yes. Yes, Dr. Omia.
Thank you. May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether officers posted at such sensitive points at the seaport and the airport are subjected to the declaration of assets as per the Declaration of Assets Act of 2019, so that signs of external riches match their salary or even their private business?
Good.
Very good suggestion, which we are looking at and probably will bring to Parliament later on.
Yes, second question.
And I ask the Honourable Prime Minister if consideration can be given to the presence of sniffer dogs at each of our 6 conveyor belts that are present in the arrival halls, rather than random sniffer dogs assessing, so that a thorough control of those who can use other means to get drugs in the country.
I looked into that matter, Madam Speaker. The police tell me they don't have enough dogs, but they are looking into that problem.
Okay, last one.
Does the Honourable Prime Minister have any information from the Cargo Handling Corporation as to measures taken to have strict access to the container park and the fishing ports, particularly at night, keeping in mind that the port area was declared in the Lam Shang Ring report as the most porous area where drugs enter the country? Thank you.
They are supposed to do that, Madam Speaker, and I hope they are doing it. Unless you have information that they are not, you can give it to me.
Yes, next question, Dr. Well, B323 will be replied by the Ministry of Health, we have been advised. Okay, so now we go to Dr. Prayag. Last question, then time is up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B324, please.
Madam Speaker, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that on Thursday, the 2nd of April of this year, a supervisor at Mitsubishi Motors, Lille Company Limited at Pai, found a suspicious plastic parcel containing several aluminum foils, allegedly containing dangerous drugs in a police vehicle which had been brought for servicing and tire check at the company's workshop. As there was no immediate superior officer to report the matter, he kept the suspicious parcel in its original place and locked the vehicle. The next day, he informed his superiors at Mitsubishi Motors, who then reported the matter to the Police Vehicle Transport Unit responsible for the servicing and repairs of fleet of police vehicles. The matter was immediately referred to the Anti-Drug and Smuggling Unit, and on the same day, a team of ATSU Metropolitan called at the location and, in presence of all parties concerned, secured the suspected parcels allegedly containing drugs. The vehicle was kept under lock and key at Mitsubishi Motors, and the police sergeant from the Police Vehicle Transport Unit and the supervisor of Mitsubishi Motors were brought at ATSU office for inquiry. The police vehicle was examined by the officers of the Forensic Science Lab and the police photographer on the 7th of April 2026, as Mitsubishi Motors was closed on Saturday, 4th to Monday the 6th of April during the Easter weekend. On the same day, the exhibits were sent to the Forensic Science Lab for examination as well as for DNA swab. Madam Speaker, the said vehicle is used by 8 personnel of the Special Team Metropolitan Division North on a daily basis, and they have been interrogated and their statements have been recorded. The police sergeant from the police vehicle and 3 employees of the Mitsubishi Motors have also been interviewed and their statements recorded. On the 9th of April 2026, the house of the police sergeant and a police constable of the Special Team Metropolitan Division were searched, but nothing incriminating was found. So far, Madam Speaker, there is no direct evidence against any of the police officers, and therefore no arrest or suspension has been effected in connection with this case. The results of the DNA test and further investigation will determine the course of actions in terms of arrest and or suspension. With regards to Part B of the question, I would like to inform the House that commanders and station managers of the Mauritius Police Force have been instructed to strictly abide with existing standing orders to ensure an in-depth verification of all police vehicles under their responsibilities, and the police inspectorate team to carry out surprise checks of police stations as well as vehicles under the responsibilities. In addition, the police vehicle technical unit will henceforth examine in depth all police vehicles being referred for maintenance, servicing, or repairs. Police has also carried out specific training to police officers focusing on accountability and transparency and the consequences meted out for indulging in drug-related offences as public officers.
Yes, just one, because we are...
Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister. Could the Honourable Prime Minister consider to reshuffle police vehicles between stations as an urgent means to tackle this issue?
I can advise the Commissioner of Police of your request.
Thank you. Time is up. Okay, I have to inform you that there are so many. The following PQs have been withdrawn. B327, 336, 339, 344, 329, 343, 335, 340, 328, 334, 332, 342, 333, and 338. Now we go to questions to ministers. Now, because of the PQs that have been withdrawn, it seems to me, but it's a bit of a mess. It seems to me now I have to call Mr. Kazan.
B348, please.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
I'm informed that at present there are around 108 general practitioners who have been granted study leave without pay to pursue postgraduate studies. With regard to the list of general practitioners, the names thereof cannot be divulged for confidentiality reasons. Concerning Part B and C of the question, concerning Part B of the questions regarding the list of universities, China is Dalian Medical University, Guangzhou University of Science and Technology, Nanjing Medical University. Egypt is Cairo University, Germany Academic Teaching Hospital, Wilhelms University, Asklepios Specialist Clinic, Leuven, Brandenburg, Bad Hersfeld Hospital, Go Academy Düsseldorf, ISL Karlsruhe University, Medical Association of Westphalia Upper Munster, Nephrologicum Westfalen GBR, Rhone University of Buchan, St. Vincent Krankens Limbury Hospital. From Malaysia, it's University Saints. From South Africa is Nelson Mandela School of Medicine.
Minister, may I? I'm sorry. Isn't it
Yes,
okay
of
to
course.
table this?
I'm going to
Yes,
I'm going
it's
to
purely factual.
submit a copy of the list.
If you don't mind.
Okay.
Purely factual. Yes, Mr. Kazan, you don't mind?
No,
Go ahead.
May I ask the Honourable Minister whether all the universities that we mentioned are currently recognized by the Medical Council of Mauritius and that proper verification is made prior approval to be?
Proper? I didn't get the last bit.
Prior verification is done prior approval of these leaves.
Yeah. Okay. Normally, when they leave for further studies after their MBBS course, then they don't ask permission. Even the law doesn't compel them to seek the clearance from the medical council. But in fact, we are thinking of amending the law so that before proceeding abroad for studies, they will be bound to at least have their names registered, and they have to mention the university where they are going. As at now, it's not compulsory.
Yes, Dr. Umia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Minister, in view of the shortage of medical doctors in the public sector, how does it compensate for the large number of junior doctors who opt to go for tertiary studies, and whether he should now be considering a staggered release of these doctors so that those who come will have sufficient enough to replace them in the public sector?
Yes,
yeah, Madam Speaker, this is a fact. There is a shortage of doctors, but you can't compel them to stay. If they want to go for, let us say, for higher studies, many of them, they leave the jobs and they go. And that is the reason why in let us say, the specialties which are missing, like geriatrics and gynecology, in these particular fields, we are allowing them. Whereas in other fields which we do have enough doctors, we try to discourage them, but unfortunately, we cannot compel them to stay in the hospital. And that is the reason why we are now trying to get doctors who can work like on session basis. We are trying to get a few of them. And secondly, we are also recruiting doctors, additional doctors on contract. But it is a fact we have got a shortage of doctors, but I can't compel them to give up, that is, not to go abroad.
Yes, okay. Mr. Duval.
The Honourable Minister, on the other hand, what about those scarcity areas? What incentives are being given by his ministry to encourage doctors?
Là, c'est une autre question.
C'est la même question. Whether there are any incentives being given to doctors.
I am not allowing this question.
But, Madam Speaker, let me ask the question.
I'm giving a ruling. I don't think... No, because it doesn't arise. You're still standing while I'm speaking. I know what your question is. Please sit down. I'm not allowing this question. Otherwise, we can have 10 questions on the doctors who are...
But the previous question was whether we can block them. Now asking for incentive and it's not relevant.
So you are going to question my ruling? Okay, I'm going next to Mr. Roukni.
Speaker, on a point of information first. Since my PQ 323 has been reallocated to the Minister of Health, should I come with that first, or can I...
No. You go to that question, this one.
So, B349.
Voilà.
Madam Speaker, I am informed by the TRMSU that the stretch of road in Triolet from Total Energy service station up to the fire service station along the Terros, Triolet, Grand Bay A4 road is approximately 4.5 kilometers long and is a vital artery for vehicular traffic that experiences significant pressure during peak hours. A technical assessment carried out indicates that the primary cause of congestion in this area is chronic on-site and haphazard parking. This is largely attributed to the high number of vehicles, high volume of commercial activities in the area where businesses operate without adequate off-street parking for customers and delivery vehicles. As regards part A of the question, I am advised that double yellow lines are present along the majority of the stretch of the road referred to above. However, their effectiveness is being undermined by persistent non-compliance by drivers, recurrent obstruction to private accesses and illegal curbside parking continue to impede the smooth traffic flow. Enforcement of compliance with road markings rests with the police. My ministry coordinates with them to step up enforcement in the region, particularly during peak hours with a view to easing the traffic problems being experienced. TRMSU has been tasked also to conduct a fresh site visit to determine if additional interventions in terms of refresh markings or other traffic measures are required to deal with the problem. In the same context, I look forward to collaboration from my colleague, the Honourable Minister of Local Government, Also elected member, Honorable Uchit of constituency number 5, where Triolet is located, to redrawing of yellow lines where needed. As a matter of fact, Honorable Minister and I had working sessions on this subject last year, and some very positive decisions had been reached, particularly on how we can expedite matters on road markings. We need to put these recommendations into action. Where necessary, we'll have to rope in the RDA of my colleague, Honorable Ajay Sgane's ministry as well. Madam Speaker, while we impose fines and penalties to maintain smooth traffic flow and road safety, it is important to recognize that enforcement alone cannot be the sole solution. The public must also take collective responsibility and be introspective for their actions and their adverse impact on the road users. By respecting parking regulations and being mindful of how their behavior affects traffic flow, responsible parking does not only reduce congestion, but also ensures that the road infrastructure serves its real purpose for the welfare and good of the community at large. Moreover, Madam Speaker, if last Friday's cabinet decision on the promotion of carpooling is adhered to, especially during peak hours, this will go a long way towards reducing traffic congestion, not only in Triolet, but island-wide. The more so important in the present context where the price of fuel has skyrocketed, thereby impacting heavily on our economy. As a matter of interest, in relation to the cabinet decision to favor carpooling, this morning, in fact, my ministry has received from proponents of carpooling their wish to assist government in this endeavor by availing the latest technology, that means apps and AI. These proponents are already using that technology with a few private enterprises in Mauritius. I shall be meeting with them on their request to see how we can move this important initiative of government forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Please.
Speaker, the Honourable Minister mentioned about the use of apps. Is he aware that there is also trade unions that are opposing the use of these apps? Will he advise how will this affect their business?
You mean using the apps that promotes carpooling? The apps that I've referred to is to promote, people can go into these apps to hop onto a vehicle that is willing to provide carpooling facilities. Is this what you're saying? No, Uber is, sorry.
I can't follow. What was the answer, Minister?
The member had questioned me on apps. The apps
yes, I know, but what did you reply?
The apps that I referred to in my substantive reply, Madam Speaker, referred to apps that seeks to promote carpooling. That means people who have spare capacity in their cars can offer seats to other people. This will go a long way to reduce carpooling. Yeah.
Okay. You're right, yes.
Will the Honourable Minister advise the House if he's aware the chronicle problems he mentioned also spread to the laterals of the Triolet main road that feeds that road?
Yes, I'm sure it does.
We're still on double lines, right?
And in Triolet.
Right.
In Triolet. I'm sure it does, Madam, because if the main road is congested, those coming from the lateral will certainly be blocked. That is why we need to reduce the number of vehicles, and the business owners along that stretch of the road have to make sure that their clients do not park their cars on that important, vital artery of Triolet.
Okay, good. We've got it. We've got a little bit more time now. Mr. Bijan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B350.
Madam Speaker, I am informed by the NLTA that 18 bus routes are being operated across constituency number 6, Granville-Poutreau. This implies that we have scores of bus stopping places, some already provided with bus shelters, and obviously some not yet. Otherwise, there won't be the question. The provision of bus shelters is a collaborative effort involving the local authority concerned and the Road Development Authority, the National Land Transport Authority, and the Traffic Management and Road Safety Unit of my ministry. According to information provided by the TRMSU, since 2019, several smart bus shelters have been installed by the latter in constituency number 6, namely in Grand Bay, Saint-François, Pointe-aux-Canonniers, Cap-Malheureux, Poudre d'Or. I am further informed that the District Council of Rivière-du-Rempart has recently installed smart bus shelters at Mapou and L'Espérance Piton. Under the newly signed framework agreement, the TRMSU will install a smart bus shelter near the Vale Government School. As the components of the structure involve specialized units that have to be procured from abroad, works are only expected to be completed by November 2026. Madam Speaker, I wish to reassure the Honourable Member that my ministry is actually seeking to respond to all demands with regard to the construction and maintenance of bus shelters across the island. All requests are duly noted and surveys are carried out with appropriate recommendations. I wish to point out that one of the challenges faced by my ministry is the question of funding. I must underline that funds made available in the yearly budget encompass different types of projects geared towards road enhancement and road safety and are used to meet the needs arising from all over the island. Moreover, I wish to highlight that the ministry has a protocol. I think this is an important part for the Honourable Member, on the modernization of bus shelters. The purpose of this protocol is to introduce comprehensive guidelines for the provision of bus shelters on main roads and motorways. The aim is to facilitate the construction of new bus shelters by interested promoters.
Exactly.
As well as renovation and maintenance of the existing bus shelters and demolition and replacement of any bus shelter which is in a deplorable state along the main roads and motorways, while adhering to the existing legal framework and subject to all clearances being obtained at no cost to the government. In return, they may use the bus shelters for advertising purposes as per conditions stipulated in the protocol. When upon completion of the said surveys, and availability of funds, the Ministry is requested to either fund the construction of additional smart bus shelters or seek the participation of private promoters to construct bus shelters strictly as per established protocol. Madam Speaker, I acknowledge that construction of bus shelters in constituency number 6 and elsewhere is a necessary infrastructure for the conveyance of passengers. Construction of shelters in any region cannot be undertaken at one go due to budgetary constraints. It is a process which spills over consecutive financial years. I, however, wish to reassure the Honourable Member that my ministry will, within available means, consider all requests positively subjected to availability of land and all road safety issues being complied with. As regards constituency number 6, the TRMSU and the NLTA will be requested to carry out a survey and establish the priority needs.
Okay, one question. Then Mr. Bichu.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Speaker. In view of several complaints and requests from inhabitants of Saint-François, Cap-Malheureux, Rocheterre, Grand-Goube, Petit-Rapret, Ville-Fond-du-Sac, 20-Pied-Péribert, and Grand Bay, will the Honourable Minister arrange for a consultative meeting with the representative of villagers under constituency Grand Bay, Poudre d'Or, along with relevant stakeholders prior to any action taken?
Sure, short and sweet.
Can do.
Sure, yes.
Will do.
Will do. Good. You, Mr. Bichuk.
Yes, Madam. Is the Honourable Minister aware that whenever we MPs, representatives of constituencies send requests for bus shelters, it turns out to be a hot potato which the RDA throws at the TRMSU and the TRMSU throws at the RDA? Is it time to set up a specific agency or division that implements the bus shelters for the well-being of the citizens of this country?
Again, short and sweet, very simple.
If you ask me a specific department in my ministry,
No.
this is my remit, but if it is another ministry, I'm afraid this
Yeah.
is not of my
But
remit.
you will think of a good
We'll think about it.
solution.
We'll remove the, Madam, we'll remove the ping pong table.
Yeah, remove the ping pong. He's removing the ping pong.
The ping pong table, so that there is no.
Very good. Very good. Miss Béranger. Last question. Last question. Yes.
B351.
Oui, merci Madame la Présidente. Les activités d'observation des dauphins et baleines et de nage avec les dauphins sont pratiquées sur la côte sud-ouest de Maurice par quelques 100 embarcations de plaisance sur 278 titulaires d'une licence délivrée par la Tourism Authority. Dans ma réponse à la question parlementaire B985 du 11 novembre 2025, j'ai informé l'Assemblée nationale qu'un premier projet de règlement visant à encadrer la conduite de ces deux activités avait été élaboré par mon ministère. Ces nouveaux règlements prévoient un certain nombre d'exigences auxquelles toute embarcation de plaisance pratiquant les activités subventionnées devra obligatoirement se conformer. Madame la Présidente, j'avais aussi indiqué que le projet de règlement avait été soumis à toutes les parties prenantes concernées pour la validation avant sa promulgation. Les organisations non gouvernementales ONG, à savoir EcoSud, Marine Megafauna Conservation Organization, MMCO, ont indiqué n'avoir aucune objection à l'activité d'observation de l'activité d'observation des dauphins et des baleines, mais réclament que la nage avec les dauphins soit interdite. La Fédération de Pleasure Craft, FOPCO, qui regroupe les 278 opérateurs, demande le maintien de l'activité nage avec les dauphins et avec allègement des contraintes réglementaires. Madame la Présidente, compte tenu de ces propositions divergentes, j'ai présidé plusieurs réunions avec les parties concernées en vue de parvenir à un consensus sur la conduite de l'activité de nage avec les dauphins. Et au cours de ces réunions, je dois dire que plusieurs insuffisances dans l'application des règles encadrant cette activité ont été relevées. Lors de la dernière réunion du 10 mars, les parties prenantes présentes ont convenu que si l'activité devrait se poursuivre, une équipe d'intervention Enforcement Squad devrait être mise en place. Cette équipe devrait être composée d'agents de la National Coast Guard, la Tourism Authority, la Fisheries Division du ministère de l'Agro-Industrie, chacun de ces entités disposant des compétences spécifiques en matière de contrôle. L'équipe d'intervention devra travailler conjointement de manière coordonnée afin d'assurer des pratiques raisonnables en matière d'observation des dauphins et des baleines, ainsi que la nage avec les dauphins Maurice. Les ressources supplémentaires requises en termes d'équipement, d'embarcation, de personnel, de drones, de formation, etc., et afin de permettre cette équipe d'intervention de fonctionner efficacement et de manière efficiente, devront être communiquées à mon ministère dans les plus brefs délais. Madame la Présidente, des réceptions de ces informations, une décision sera prise quant au maintien ou non l'activité de nage avec les dauphins. Et j'insiste, Madame la Présidente, que nous devrons absolument assurer la protection des mammifères marins, de notre écosystème marin, aussi de protéger l'image de l'île Maurice. Nous devrons de part tenir compte des moyens de subsistance des 100 opérateurs aussi engagés dans ces activités, ainsi que les employés et leurs familles, et surtout le contexte économique difficile actuellement. Donc, une décision courageuse devra être prise collectivement sur la base de la décision qui sera prise et les règlements appropriés seront élaborés.
Oui, allez.
Je vous remercie. L'honorable ministre a fait référence à sa réponse à la PQB 985, où il affirmait qu'un draft de regulation avait été circulé à tous les stakeholders. Comment est-ce qu'il réconcilie cette affirmation avec le courriel de la MMCO, où je suis en copie, qui a été adressé au ministre suite à la réponse à sa PQ, et où l'organisation affirme n'avoir jamais reçu de draft des regulations? Comment une consultation peut être réellement significative si l'organisation qui est la plus concernée par le sujet n'est pas consultée, n'a pas accès au projet de loi?
Alors, attendre sa réponse, on ne sait pas. Est-ce qu'ils n'ont pas reçu?
Madame la Présidente, you know exactly where lies the problem. You were
speak to me.
Meetings.
Minister, speak to me, please.
Yes, so several meetings, which you are very aware of everything. And the big concern, that I must say, that about this regulation is who is going to take care? Who is going to take care? Who is going to take the lead? No one knows. we have got 3 entities. We've got
Minister,
National Coast Guard.
Minister, may I? The question was, this organization has said that they didn't receive the communication. Just let's...
But they can start again and come back to me. There's no worries, madam. Okay. I didn't receive it.
Apparemment, ils vous ont écrit.
I didn't receive.
Okay.
If you got it,
No
problem.
Give
Give it to me.
Ask
Give
your
it to
next
me with
question.
pleasure.
Ask your next question.
With pleasure, I will.
Okay.
Déposer.
Vous les déposez.
Sur la table, je vais communiquer au ministre
Au
encore
ministre.
une fois une copie
Au
du
ministre,
courriel.
d'accord.
Mais il a reçu, ça lui a été adressé.
Non,
L'honorable ministre peut-il donner un calendrier précis de quand ces regulations vont devenir une réalité, étant donné que ce dossier est en suspens depuis plus d'1 an, malgré plusieurs relances, y compris à travers le comité interministériel qui était dirigé par l'ex-DPM. Plusieurs relances ont été faites et le projet est toujours en suspens. Peut-il donner un calendrier précis? Oui.
Madame la Présidente, je dois dire que il est très important de souligner que c'est un règlement très complexe parce que nous avons environ 100 opérateurs de bateaux de plaisance qui défendent cette activité actuellement. Et d'un côté, nous avons les ONG, d'un côté, et d'autres autorités qui nous demandent d'interdire la nage avec des dauphins. Nous devons être très prudents, Madame la Présidente, et veiller à ce que les informations appropriées et précises soient recueillies afin qu'une décision soit prise. Mais aussi, ainsi, je peux dire qu'à mon ministère poursuit actuellement les consultations avec les différentes parties prenantes afin de finaliser les terms of reference de l'Enforcement Squad. Une fois cette étape achevée, je présenterai au Conseil des ministres un document sur la question afin qu'une décision collective soit prise.
Calendrier ni de timeline. Il n'y a pas que la nage avec les dauphins qui pose problème aujourd'hui. Le ministre est très bien au courant. La nage illégale avec les baleines est un gros problème. Les scientifiques ont mentionné que la population de nos cachalots résidents n'ont cessé de diminuer, est arrivée aujourd'hui à uniquement 25 cachalots. Donc l'honorable ministre, ne convient-il pas que ce retard prolongé compromet à la fois les efforts de conservation et la crédibilité de Maurice en tant que destination touristique durable?
Je suis au courant de tout ça, madame, mais il faut prendre en considération une chose. L'implementation de tout ça demande un budget. Et tout ce qui s'appelle budget, ça arrive bientôt. Nous avons la National Coast Guard qui n'a pas de budget. Nous avons la Tourism Authority qui n'a pas de budget. Nous avons les Fisheries qui n'a pas de budget. Donc, comment faire? On peut parler aujourd'hui, demain, et faire 1000 réunions. Mais le point le plus important, c'est les fonds, c'est l'argent, c'est le budget, c'est le ministère des Finances qui doit nous donner. Alors, comment on fait?
J'attends qu'il est fini.
Il y a déjà eu une proposition pour ça. Le MMCO a proposé un concern. Le ministre est-il au courant que la MMCO a proposé un conservation fee pour rendre obligatoire et financer l'enforcement, justement. Donc il y a une solution. Il suffit d'avoir la volonté politique.
J'ai déjà répondu, Madame la Présidente.
Question on this side.
Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente. Le ministre peut-il indiquer à la Chambre, dans le cadre de cette éventuelle législation, quelles mesures il compte prendre pour les opérateurs exerçant dans les espaces marins et risquant de perdre leur emploi ainsi que leur seul moyen de subsistance? Merci.
Je croyais qu'on avait déjà répondu à ça.
Je vous ai...
Oui, mais ça a déjà...
J'ai déjà répondu à cette question-là, mais comme je vous dis, madame...
Non, on ne va pas répéter, là.
J'ai déjà répondu à ça, mais comme je vous dis, les mesures que je vous dis, mais j'insiste, Madame la Présidente, que nous devrons assurer la protection...
Les deux, vous avez dit.
Oui, la protection des mammifères marins de notre écosystème marin et aussi, comme l'a si bien dit l'honorable membre, et l'image de l'île Maurice. Mais nous devrons aussi, d'autre part, comme je vous dis, tenir en compte des moyens de subsistance de 100 opérateurs engagés dans cette activité, ainsi que les employés et leurs familles, surtout dans le contexte économique actuel. Donc ce sera une décision courageuse qui devra être prise collectivement sur la base de la décision et des règlements appropriés, mais c'est le cabinet qui va décider.
Oui, mais non, pas trop longtemps. J'arrête là, c'est l'heure du déjeuner. Merci beaucoup.